Imagine the scene: blinding lights, pulsating electronic beats, and down the Chanel runway, dozens of models glide like living statues. Yet among all those faces, there is one pair of burning eyes that silences the entire room. Joan Smalls, tall, lean, every movement sharp as a blade, does not simply walk. She advances as if tearing down invisible walls that once separated her from the world. That moment was no accident. It was the result of years of struggle. A journey that began on a small island in Puerto Rico, where the dream of stepping onto a global stage seemed almost impossible. Joan Smalls was not born into privilege, nor was she handed an open door to success. Yet with her proud gaze, she forced an industry long dominated by narrow ideals of beauty to acknowledge her presence. Behind the smile on the cover of Vogue, behind the confident stride for Givenchy, Chanel, or even Victoria's Secret, lies a heart that has endured doubt, skepticism, and the burning need to prove herself. Joan Smalls is not just a representation of beauty, she is the embodiment of resilience, a reminder that strength and conviction can transform a brown-skinned girl from the Caribbean into a global icon. This is not merely the story of a supermodel. This is the story of breaking barriers, of a relentless desire to rise above imposed limits. Above all, it is the story of Joan Smalls, the woman who turned every step on the runway into a defiant declaration. Joan Smalls was born in 1,988 inches Hatillo, a small coastal town in northern Puerto Rico, where life was shaped by salty winds and endless green fields stretching toward the horizon. Her family was not wealthy, but her home was filled with both discipline and love. Her father, a judge of West Indian descent, was stern, fair, and firmly believed that law brought order to life. Her mother, a devoted nurse, often worked night shifts to provide for their 3 daughters. Within that modest home, Joan absorbed discipline from her father, compassion from her mother, and the belief that perseverance was the key to survival. From an early age, Joan stood out, taller than her classmates, with striking eyes that seemed to see beyond the moment. She was both admired and teased. Instead of shrinking from attention, she spent hours in front of the mirror, imagining herself striding down a runway far away from her quiet hometown. Her unusual height and lean frame drew ridicule from peers, but Joan nurtured a quiet confidence. She understood that her difference was not a weakness, but a gift. Hatillo's slow rhythm also made Joan acutely aware of the limits of a small island. She watched her mother work tirelessly, and her father insist that success only comes through persistence. These lessons forged a resilient spirit within her, teaching her not to settle for the roles society wanted to impose. No one in Hatillo could have predicted that this skinny girl with impossible dreams would one day redefine beauty on the global stage of fashion. Yet it was in this small town that Joan's iron will was born, the will that would eventually make her one of the most unforgettable figures of an industry, often blind to women like her. As a teenager, Joan Smalls was not only excelling in her studies, but also carrying within her a restless dream to step beyond the boundaries of Puerto Rico. After graduating with a degree in psychology, she held on to a secret ambition: to become a model. For a brown-skinned girl from the Caribbean, it seemed an unreachable fantasy. In her family's eyes, higher education and a stable career were the safe and sensible path. Her father, stern and pragmatic, doubted fashion could ever provide security, while her mother worried the industry would be cruel and prejudiced against her daughter. But Joan refused to let fear define her future. She entered a local modeling competition. Though she did not win the top prize, her striking eyes and confident stride caught attention. Among the onlookers was an American talent scout visiting Puerto Rico. What he saw in Joan was not only beauty, but an energy that felt impossible to ignore, a presence that suggested something greater was waiting. Deciding to leave Puerto Rico for New York was anything but easy. Joan arrived with limited English, no connections, and nothing but the conviction that she belonged on a runway. The early days were harsh. Countless casting rejections, snide comments about her skin tone, dismissals about her build. Yet Joan did not crumble. She practiced poses in front of the mirror for hours, perfected her walk, and adjusted every detail of her presentation. She treated every setback not as defeat but as training. Her perseverance paid off when she signed with Elite Model Management before later joining IMG Models, one of the world's most influential agencies. With that move, Joan's journey began to transform. The timid, uncertain steps of a newcomer gave way to a commanding stride that seemed born for the spotlight. This was no longer a fantasy spun in front of her bedroom mirror. Joan Smalls had crossed the threshold into the fashion world, a world that was unforgiving, competitive, and often exclusionary, but one where she knew, deep inside, she was meant to leave her mark. If Puerto Rico had forged Joan Smalls' iron will, then New York was where she was transformed into a warrior of the runway. The early 2010 seconds marked a decisive breakthrough when Joan was chosen to open Givenchy under Riccardo Tisci. It was not just a show, it was a historic moment. For the first time, a Puerto Rican model of color became the muse of one of the most powerful designers of the era. As the spotlight hit the runway, Joan walked with icy confidence, her piercing gaze cutting through the crowd. She was not simply modeling, she was declaring that fashion could no longer remain trapped in its whitewashed ideals. From that moment forward, Joan seemed to be everywhere. Chanel, Dior, Fendi, Balmain, Versace, Gucci, all fell in love with her presence. Her walk was unlike anyone else's, precise, fluid, a balance of strength and elegance. Critics and fans alike called her the Black Panther of the catwalk, because every time she appeared, she radiated raw power and untamed allure. In 2011, Joan made history again by becoming the first model of color to top Models.com's top 50 ranking. It was not only a personal victory, but a milestone for an entire generation of women once pushed to the sidelines. That same year, she became the face of Estée Lauder, a brand that had rarely chosen women with darker skin. Suddenly, Joan's striking features, her sculpted cheekbones, her luminous skin, her unyielding eyes were plastered across billboards in New York, Paris, and Tokyo. For millions of women, those images were proof that beauty could no longer be defined by a single shade. But Joan was not confined to the high fashion elite. In 2013, she joined Karlie Kloss, Adriana Lima, and Doughts & Crows as one of Victoria's Secret angels. It was a move that brought her closer to the mainstream public. On that dazzling stage, under the glare of spotlights and with wings on her back, Joan still exuded the same pride and power that defined her haute couture walk. She wasn't just seductive, she was commanding, embodying a new kind of sensuality that fused desire with strength. The world's greatest photographers, Steven Meisel, Mario Testino, Patrick de Marchelier, were captivated by her. She graced the covers of Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, WL. Joan's face became a global symbol. Sleek brown skin, sharp bone structure, a gaze that dared you to look away but made it impossible to do so. What distinguished Joan was not only her look but also her professionalism. Designers and photographers praised her punctuality, her dedication, her refusal to shy away from challenges. She could embody the regal grandeur of haute couture at Givenchy one moment, and the casual minimalism of Calvin Klein jeans the next. That adaptability made her indispensable an ace card in the eyes of the industry, and Joan was never afraid to speak up. Asked about the role of models of color, she did not hesitate. "We don't want to be tokens. We want to be valued as creators." Her boldness sometimes made her seem difficult, but it also made her a voice for change. She was not only walking for herself, but for every woman who had ever been told she didn't fit the mold. At her peak, Joan Smalls was no longer just a model. She was the face of a cultural shift, a symbol of how far fashion had come and how far it still had to go. Every time she stepped onto a runway, It was as if she were rewriting the story of fashion itself. Her reign was not a fleeting burst of fame, but a decade of dominance. From New York to Paris, Milan to Tokyo, Joan held the spotlight. Whether draped in the most extravagant couture or stripped down to clean lines, she always left an impression that she was not only walking for herself, but carrying the weight of representation for millions of women who had long been invisible in this world. Her story during this golden era was one of brilliance, strength, and cultural defiance. And in the shimmering light of the runway, Joan Smalls became more than an icon of beauty. She became a symbol of a new age, one that embraced difference, diversity, and a broader vision of what beauty could truly mean. In an industry that often paints beauty with artificial perfection, Joan Smalls stood out not just for her figure or her fierce presence, but for her courage to speak and to act. At the height of her career, she could have easily played by the rules, accepted the standards, and preserved her place among the elite. But Joan chose a different path. She consistently broke through the barriers others tried to impose on her. One of her boldest decisions was to appear on the cover of Vogue without having her skin tone digitally lightened. She insisted on staying authentic, because for Joan, true beauty did not come from pretending to be someone else. It came from the strength to embrace who you are. That choice, simple yet revolutionary, challenged the very foundations of an industry built on exclusion. Joan also spoke out fearlessly about racial inequality in fashion. At a time when shows still overwhelmingly favored white faces, she did not mince words. Diversity is not a trend, it is reality. Such statements sometimes earned her a reputation for being difficult, but they also made her a beacon for change, inspiring countless young models who shared her struggle. Her difference was clear. Joan Smalls did not want to simply walk the runway, she wanted to redefine beauty itself. That is why she rose above being labeled just another model. She became a symbol of defiance, a figure who refused to bow to convention, and an icon who proved that fashion's future depended on voices like hers. Behind the icy confidence Joan Smalls displayed on the runway lay struggles that no spotlight could illuminate. Success had come quickly, but with it came crushing pressure. For years, Joan barely had time for herself, flying from New York to Paris, Milan to Tokyo, sleeping only a few hours a night, her body exhausted while still expected to look flawless. The press celebrated her as a runway machine, marveling at her ability to appear in dozens of major shows each season. Yet inside, Joan often felt like a shadow living on a schedule dictated entirely by others. The pressure of beauty was another invisible weight. As a woman of color in an industry still dominated by Eurocentric ideals, Joan frequently endured whispers that she was chosen only for diversity, not because she truly embodied fashion's standards. Each comment cut deeply. She later admitted in an interview, "I cried many nights in hotel rooms, wondering if I was good enough to be here." Her greatest battle came not on the runway but within herself. The relentless pace pushed Joan into a spiral of anxiety and sleeplessness. To the world, she was radiant, untouchable. To her friends, she was fragile, haunted by fatigue and doubt. Joan eventually sought therapy, learning to face her fears of failure and rejection. Remarkably, she chose not to hide this. Instead, she spoke openly about her struggles, hoping to show young people facing similar pressures that they were not alone. The industry itself could be merciless. As fresh faces emerged, the press began labeling Joan a former supermodel, even while she was still at her peak. Fashion, always hungry for novelty, reminded her that even stars burn out in the glare of constant change. Campaigns that once featured her everywhere were now handed to younger names. Controversy followed when Joan participated in the Victoria's Secret show, just as the brand was being criticized for its lack of diversity and outdated ideals. Some fans accused her of hypocrisy, arguing that an icon of representation should not support a fading empire. Joan stayed silent, A silence that divided opinion. Some saw it as compromise, others as survival in an unforgiving system. Then came the pandemic. When the world shut down, the fashion industry collapsed into silence. For the first time in years, Joan found herself with no flights, no shows, no camera flashes. She returned to Puerto Rico, reconnecting with the ocean and skies of her childhood. In that stillness, she admitted she had been swept away by fame's whirlpool, losing balance within herself. Yet this pause also taught her to value health and inner peace over relentless pursuit of work. Rumors spread in the press that Joan had retired. But the truth was more complex. She was healing. When she resurfaced, it was not with another dazzling campaign, but with a powerful statement in Vogue about mental health. She revealed her personal struggles, emphasizing that vulnerability is not failure. Admitting you need help is strength. To fans who once thought of Joan as unbreakable, this revelation was shocking, but it also made her human, relatable, and even more inspiring. She had shown that behind the flawless covers and glittering runways, there exists a darker side, the dark side of fashion, where even the strongest icons wrestle with invisible battles. Her resilience in sharing her truth became another act of defiance. Joan Smalls had already conquered the runway, but this time she was conquering silence, stigma, and the weight of expectation. By revealing her cracks, she proved she was stronger than ever, and in doing so, gave her legacy a depth that no photograph could ever capture. Looking back at Joan Smalls' journey, what remains is not only a supermodel with hundreds of magazine covers or a decade of legendary runway shows. The deeper legacy is what she left behind for the fashion industry. The breaking of racial barriers, the courage to speak up, and the pride of never bowing her head. Joan proved that beauty should never be confined to outdated ideals. Every stride she took was a reminder that diversity and authenticity are not trends, but the essence of our time. For millions of women of color across the globe, Joan became more than a fashion figure. She was proof that they too could shine in spaces that once rejected them. Today, as catwalks showcase models from countless backgrounds, people remember that Joan Smalls was one of the trailblazers who opened those doors. Whether she continues to dominate runways or steps into new roles, her impact endures, a gaze that never wavered, a will that turned obstacles into strength, and a story that forces us to ask if Joan Smalls were to begin her career today, would fashion dare to doubt her again? In the shimmering world of glamour, she revealed not only brilliance but also vulnerability, reminding us of the dark side of fashion. Yet in doing so, she ensured that her steps would echo far beyond the runway, leaving an indelible mark on an industry that, thanks to voices like hers, will never be the same.